Another day of live streaming, and we're talking about adventures, creating and designing your own adventures, giant crystal caves. Yes, this was inspired, or should I say, this was suggested by AJ Pickett, and so that's why we're going to cover that topic for today. I will certainly be covering other topics regarding caves. This was quite interesting. I have considered it as a topic for a while, but it never sort of struck me as I should sit down and actually write up some design notes for it. And so I have. I have used crystal caves in adventures before. It's not the first time for me, so you'd think I'd have some knowledge of that. I'm going to put up a poll. Feel free to take part in that poll. I'm going to do a presentation first, so I have some material for you. Once I've done the presentation, what I'm going to do is open it up and we'll do some Q&A or some questions or some feedback, stuff like that, and sort of fill things out as much as possible. I see that Fred Hubert is here. Thank you. He's a patron. Thank you for being here. To Born is here. Thank you for being here. I really do appreciate it. Well, yes, certainly could. You could certainly put all sorts of things in there, but we'll talk about that in a second. Let's go straight into the presentation because that's why people are here in the first place usually, and well, that's probably not true actually. I've been told that's part of the reason, but not really the entire reason. Anyway, let's start, shall we? Hi, welcome to How to RPG. My name is Fred Weller, and today I want to talk about role-playing games. So how do you go about designing your own giant crystal cave for your adventures? Well, I have some advice for you. These things do in fact exist in real life, so we can take a lot of the information that is available about the real formation of a crystal cave, and we can port that over into our role-playing game, into our adventures, and build it out from there. And of course, you can change anything after that. So giant transparent and white crystals are formed over thousands of years. The crystals are formed through the formation or the interaction of water and sulfite ions. So that combination over a very long period of time creates crystals. Crystals can be protruding from any direction and all angles. The largest crystal could be as large as 3 meters in diameter and 12 meters long. And in fact, the longer you leave them, the larger they can grow, provided they have a space they can grow in. The depth of a crystal cave will be extremely deep and close to magma activity because you need to get that sulfite ion going. If you don't have magma activity, it's a bit hard to make that work. The temperature in a crystal cave will be extremely hot, somewhere in the vicinity of 50 degrees Celsius. Humidity in a crystal cave will be very high, probably close to 90%, and a crystal cave will contain water, possibly be completely submerged. It is possible for a crystal cave to actually wind up losing all its water, but it needs water to actually grow and form the crystals, so there's usually going to be some sort of water content, even if it's lying at the very lowest level of your crystal cave. The crystal cave will usually have a huge central chamber, but it could have smaller caverns linked to it. Now, why do I say this? Because you need a big space to allow a large crystal to grow. The environment of a crystal cave will be crisscrossed with crystal pathways and at different angles, but also at different vertical heights. So it's kind of like a catwalk environment. Surviving inside a crystal cave requires special magic and equipment to contend with the heat and the lack of oxygen, because there really won't be a lot of oxygen down there, if any at all, and the heat will be so extreme it will kill most things. It's not practical for normal creatures, beasts, and animals to live in a crystal cave. You will need to create your own dragons, fish, eels, or aquatic creatures, or even any kind of beast that will actually live in a crystal cave environment, because it is so hostile to living forms. Now that's everything I have for you on crystal caves and how to go about designing them. I know that sounds super simple, but there's not a lot to it. Really, play with it, make whatever adjustments you need to, and have a good time with it. So I want to thank all of my patrons who support me so I can keep running this program. I want to thank you for watching and listening, and hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. Okay, that was quick and sweet. And for those of you who are thinking, gosh, that wasn't very much information, well, the reality is that sometimes when you design something, you don't want to overthink it. And I didn't want you to overthink it. I just wanted to give you the bare bones in terms of design, how to go about doing that. And if you're dealing with a natural forming cave and it's not been constructed by magic, then this is really the gist of it. This is what I could find. And these are the sorts of things I've done myself, but you can do it any way you like. So what I thought I would do, I normally talk every 2 months. I talk about cave design, cave adventures, and I wanted to ask you what sort of tools you would like, because I try to make tools, I try to make things that you can use on this channel. And we go back to caves because caves is something that you wind up using a lot. So I wanted to ask you that question. I have some suggestions and some ideas myself, but I always thought it would be nice to be able to do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you that question in the chat in a second. Feel free to give me what you would like me to create, or what you would like this live stream to create and those people part of it, for cave locations. What are we missing that we need? Okay. And while we're doing that, I'm going to go over some of the stuff we've already covered in the past with regard to cave locations, because we have actually gone through this topic quite a few times. So let me just put up a quick question Q&A. What game master tools or assets? I guess that would be assets. Do I want to say S? S. It's. I can just feel myself going down the wrong track here right now. Assets. Do we still need to make for caves? All right. So that is the question. Hello, dearie. How you doing? What game master tools or assets do we still need to make for caves? Okay, that's it. What is a crystal cave? I mean, is it a module? No, a crystal cave is just an environment that you could use for an adventure. And I didn't want to go into any more detail other than the environment of the crystal cave. And I talked very briefly, like super briefly. Like, we could definitely talk about crystal dragons and crustaceans that might live in this environment, although I feel like a crustacean would get cooked from the inside out. Anyway, so that's my question to you, and let me go through and just plug a few of the things that I had already sort of considered, or we've already discussed, for those of you who are kind of new to this channel. Those of you who are not new to the channel will be very, very familiar with this. Ideas for ideas for topics, I guess. Topics, I can't spell. Topics for caves. Okay, so first one. I know you're going to ask me this and say, this is what we need to do. And I totally get it. Dragon caves. I mean, when it comes to caves, we're like, where's my dragon cave, Fred? You haven't done that yet, Fred. Why have you not? Dragon caves. I understand. I'm holding out. Why? Why am I holding out? I'm holding out because I know fully well that it will be quite complicated and require a little bit of research on my part. And also, too, since I have like AJ Pickett and Dungeon Dad and Mr. X, they've covered the concept of dragon caves pretty extensively. So I've got to try to figure out how can I add something that these giants have already done on YouTube. And that's not so easy to do sometimes. Nothing much really. Anything in the Crystal Cave can be easily added by ready-made assets. Yes, I believe so. Now, when I say, I don't mean Game Master tools for a Crystal Cave. I mean any cave location. Any cave, like any tools or assets. What is it that we need to sort of cover? That's what I'm trying to get at. Do you know what I mean? A rock manual. A rock hound manual. Why do we need the rock hound manual? A set of chamber maps to assemble into the dungeon. Okay, all right. Now, Fred Huber, I'm going to put down cave maps. Now, the reason why I have not done that is because it's been done before, and the problem with a selection of different caves as map, chambers or rooms that are separate that you add together, I generally don't feel it's going to be very useful. And the reason why I haven't done that is because, like, a cave location is just an irregular shaped chamber, right? Any kind of irregular shaped chamber is able to be a cave. So I don't need to draw those or map those out. What I think is really important, though, is I agree that I should be doing some drawing of maps on the channel, and I haven't been doing that. And I've been very reluctant to do that since I had a little problem with Dungeon Scroll and it changed everything and I couldn't figure out how to use it. And so I'm much more likely to do it by hand. But I feel like the concepts of different types of caves, we could certainly do that. And that would be able to be ported over, because I really want people to draw their own caves. Drawing a cave is not hard. It doesn't require a lot of skill on your part. So, but I would agree that different types of caves, types of caves. And today we've covered crystal caves. So I'm sure we need to cover some other types of caves that I haven't talked about before. So different types of caves for sure. Let's say that's definitely on the mark. We need to do that. Dairy Geode is perfect though when you look at the bubbles of the, I don't know, Xeric gems, cave traps, cave hazards. So to Born, to answer your question, because we've already done the Batman cave. It's like designing a Batman cave, we've already covered that. So I'm not going to do that again, of course. We did a whole lot of adventure hooks, for example, on cave adventure hooks. We've got bucket loads of those. Like I think we came up with 27 of them. So there's 27 different adventure hooks for a cave location. That's not a problem. Okay. Next up on the list, you said traps. We actually talked about traps a long time ago. Traps in a cave, they're not constructed. A trap in a cave that's been constructed, generally we're talking about, probably the kobold might put these together, maybe even goblins and dwarves might put in traps. But the pit trap, the doom spore, the collapsing ceiling, the maze-like trap, the rolling sphere or boulder, the bridge trap where you walk across a bridge and it collapses, the acid pools full of sulfuric acid from thermal or volcanic activity, the false stepping stone that you cross water or some sort of liquid. These are all sort of cave traps, right? We've actually talked about those before. We actually did make a list. So we've got those. Okay, so we've got them. If you want to know what the doom spore is, basically the doom spore is it's a great huge puffball, and it releases poisonous spores from it that will really mess you up. That's essentially, so it's basically fungus traps, naturally forming fungus traps. Then when you said something like, I believe you said hazards, I think we also covered natural hazards. So things like naturally forming hazards in a cave would be darkness, narrow spaces, cracks in caves and walls that you have to squeeze through, stalactites, stalagmites that you can things that can fall on you, things that you could walk into that are sharp, magma pools or magma tubes and streams, flammable gas pockets, cave-ins, rock slides, a tidal wave, a tidal cave where the water the cave is full of water, and as the tide comes in, it fills with water. Holes and pits. A cave cliff face could be a hazard you have to negotiate. Slime on a surface making it slippery. Green slime that's corrosive. brown mold animal and monster poo could be a bit problematic since there's probably a monster close by as well. Spider webs, magnetized ore, and heated geysers. We talked all about that sort of stuff in the past. We've actually covered that, and I don't know that it's necessarily in a form that is completely tool-like, but we certainly did cover those topics. And then when it comes to a cave den or location, we did talk about like the different sort of things that you might find in certain caves. So, if you break up a cave and it's a cave complex, we talked about the entrance, underground rivers, streams, lakes, springs that carve out the cave passages from some sort of water source. We dealt with key locations like the larder or pantry where they keep food, whatever animal might be keeping food in a cave, nursery and egg chambers, the rubbish dump, where that might be positioned, probably close to the entrance, cooking caves with ventilation if you're dealing with that sort of thing, crevices and chasms, cave bridges, monster lairs where they might be sleeping, basically the sleeping quarters for a monster or a beast or a creature, lava and magma tubes and caverns, that sort of stuff, mushrooms, fungus farms and caverns, all those sorts of things. We've actually gone over that before, and we've also covered quite extensively the different types of cave bridges that you can have. Remember, we talked about the wooden bridge, the stone bridge, iron and metal bridges, which are not very practical because they corrode so quickly underground. We talked about wooden bridges, which are nice and calm. They're not costly. They can be put up fast, but they require so much maintenance that they can break down very quickly. But they are cheap and fast to do. And then the stone bridge, which is far more practical. Things that are subterranean humanoids or dwarves might put into place because they will last a long time. They're reliable. You can trust them, and they're very strong. Provide the best sort of security too in terms of trying to get from one place to another. And yeah, so we've covered a lot of that ground already if you weren't too sure, but thank you for putting those ideas up. Keep going. Let's have a look here. Hello, I see we have a few more people here. I love using the roper. Okay, roper's the ultimate cave monster. So roper caves. We need to deal with the roper. You want a specific one around the roper? I feel like that's just where we're going with this. Definitely need sliced and stabbed rules for just merely traveling. I'm not too sure what we're talking about here, Derry. What are you talking about? Shards are sharp. Oh, you mean about crystal shards and so forth. No, I don't think we need to make a rule system. You know me, I'm not really about let's make lots of rules just for the sake of making rules. Slice and stab rules. The rules around how you get hurt on a crystal shard, it can be pretty simple. Hello, Dungeons and Chronics. How are you doing? Nice to have you here. I check for secret doors, slices, fingers. All right, okay, all right. You're having too much fun with your slicing. Okay, Nacho Man, what are you going to hear? How are you doing? Nacho Man is a patron, by the way. Thank you for being here. A new type of golem elemental, possibly. There are so many different types of elementals. I don't honestly know. I mean, that's really a monster creation rather than the location for the adventure, which to a large extent is kind of what these live streams on the Sunday here in New Zealand are all about. They're really about the location. Ropers. Okay, well, look, I'll note down ropers because we have talked about monster populations and animal populations and caves. Like caves are used by bats, bears, snakes, spiders, millipedes, centipedes, salamander lizards, cave fisher, which is a D&D monster, crayfish, insects. The tiger uses a cave, but not usually lions, crabs and shrimp, etc. And we talked about that sort of stuff. And then of course monsters that fit quite well into a cave location is mole men, roper, which is obviously what pierces, myconids, shriekers, giant fire beetles, cavemen, goblins, troglodytes, kobolds, magma mephits, orcs, all sort of use caves. the ooze, rot grubs, earth elemental. You've got the choker, the cloaker, the choker, the otiog, the umber hulk, salamander, the chull, which is like the crab monster, the phase spider, and the carrion crawler. These are all very sort of lower level creatures and monsters that you might use in a fantasy cave location. And then the more powerful ones will be your dragons, your purple worm, your bear, Bahar, and your aboleth. Okay, so it seems to me that we want to talk specifically about what a roper cave would be like. So I'll add that along with the likes of a dragon cave, since that seems to be a topic that people would like to see explored. I have no problem with that. Roper caves. Roper caves. So obviously that is another topic that I'll be looking at in the future. Sounds fine to me. Getting some good ideas here. Now, it's not like I don't sit down and try to come up with new topics for this all the time. I do, but it should be obvious by now that I do actually look at alternatives. And you as the viewer and the subscribers and patrons, you guys give me ideas, and I always want to sort of incorporate as much of that as I can. So I'm in the audience that's watching me. I want to try to make what you want. I do. I might pick and choose a little bit, but I still want to try to make stuff that you're interested in. Love using a roper. So I did some tactical monster videos on the roper many years ago, but I've never actually... What does a roper's sort of cave look like? Or cave complex look like? How would that be structured and laid out? It's actually a very, very good question. I'm not sure I know the answer to that. I feel like I might need to go and have a chat with AJ about that one. I'm sure he would answer that question. Copper items, then an underground. I don't understand. Pettier, not rusted. I have no understand. I'm confused. You're confusing me, dearie. Ropers believe in using gravity to kill their prey. Yes, they do, and it very much. With a roper, you want a high environment. You want a crevice or a chasm, something they can drop their food down to kill it. It's like the seagull, the seagull or a bird that picks up like a snail or something in a shell. They will pick it up off the ground, fly high into the ground, up into high into the air, and then they will drop it onto something hard so that it smashes open so they can eat it. And that's essentially what the roper's doing. Although it's not trying to smash you open, it's trying to kill you, because there's you usually don't have a shell around you, do you? Unless you're wearing plate armor, then maybe you can consider that the shell. And then it eats what's inside, once it's killed, because that's easier than grabbing you and shoving you in its mouth. A hag that lives in a cave and uses a roper to keep out intruders. A hag cave. Let's add the hag cave there. Again, this feels like a topic that I would have to talk to AJ about, but a hag cave, fair enough. I'll mark that down. Yes, hooked horrors are a good cave monster, Nacho. I'm just trying to think. My general feeling is that a hooked horror is a more mobile creature. It doesn't really have a cave as such, because it's constantly traveling through a cave complex. I feel like it's more nomadic. Do you know what I mean? It's like a nomadic cave creature. But you want me to talk about... I've talked about the hooked horror before in live streams, and I do have a video on the hooked horror as well, an edited one. But okay, hooked horror and cave complexes. I suppose that's where you're going with this, right? Are we exploring the environments or the denizens? I really want to explore the environment. When we talk about, I already have a live stream that talks about monsters. That's for me. That's Tuesday in New Zealand or Monday in North America, and that's the day I talk about monsters. Do you know what I mean? And since I've already talked about the hooked horror, and I've already talked about the roper quite a few times, we're not really I don't want to go back to them. But I would do something else. Okay, all right. So let's put down hooked horror and cave complexes. Okay, because I don't really have a single lair. They're more. I feel like they're more nomadic. Oh, okay. So here we go. Fred Huber, you've got here Esper's geode elemental looks. Yep. So here we go. So the so es, I will talk about Esper's geode elemental eventually. I am not planning to do it anytime soon because I don't have the assets for it. But it will certainly come up at some point. Crossbows for caves. I'm lost again, Derry. What are we doing here, Derry? What do you mean crossbows for caves, not standard bows? Why would you need to have a different type of crossbow for a cave location? Is that what you're trying to say? I wouldn't even know how to answer that question, Derry. If is that I don't know enough about crossbows to be able to answer that. Even know if there is needing to be a difference between the type of crossbow you used. Would there really be a necessity to have a specific type of crossbow for a cave? Yeah. So this is a question that would have to go to somebody much more experienced than I am. I wouldn't know how to answer that question, even if I wanted to put it down. Crossbows for caves. That's big here. Crossbows for caves. Question mark. I don't really know the answer to that one. I'm not even sure where to find the information for it either. Okay, all right. Awareness. Hello, Awareness. How are you? Your videos have helped me so much. Just wanted to come in and say thank you. You're welcome, Awareness. I'm glad they have been useful to you. I'm always trying to make them as useful as I possibly can. So yeah, if they continue being useful, great. Which videos, tell me, Awareness, which videos are you watching that you're finding useful? I'm kind of interested to know. Usually in the past, people will find my Lost Mine of Fandelver videos, but usually that doesn't seem to be the case nowadays. I think everybody's finding Doyle's videos and Matthew Perkins' videos, and what's the other one? What's the other guy? The Blue Collar DM, I think it is. I think most of their stuff seems to be being found rather than my stuff. So turtle vermin or armadillos. What do you mean? I'm confused. I didn't think armadillos lived in a cave, do they? Stalactites and stalagmites, of course. Yeah, but what do I say about stalagmites and stalactites? A reverse gravity cave. Okay, that seems like a fair comment there, Nacho. Absolutely. Let's go terrain theory. What resides even if it doesn't live in this terrain? Terrain creation. In a cave, terrain creation. Interesting. Okay, let's make a note of this. Terrain creation in a cave. And I guess that would be a table, would it? I'm not sure how big that table would be, or even how useful a table like that. Would you even need a table for that? That's another question, right? But a reverse gravity cave, talking about a reverse gravity cave, is there much to say about it? That's the thing. Okay, let's mark that down. I'm not sure I know the answer to that one either, but I will mark it down as ideas. Since I've asked you for ideas, let's collect them up. I just have to drink some water. Maybe old mine equipment and hand monolith paintings. Okay, cave paintings. Now, cave paintings we could do. I don't want to do mining equipment because actually, Awareness, I cover mines as part of this program on adventures. Every 2 months I talk about mines specifically because the cave is one very common location that we use, right? The next one tends to be the mine. the old mine. So I have one dedicated to doing that. I've already talked about mining equipment and in the mining adventure stuff rather than the cave stuff. So I don't think I need to cover that again. But wall paintings, and you're saying monolith paintings? I'm not sure what monolith paintings are, but let's go with wall paintings. Wall paintings and monolith paintings. Is that what it's supposed to be? Monolith paintings. I'm not sure how much information I can find on something like that. But I like the idea. I do. So I'm marking it down for sure. Okay, crossbows don't have the range as a longbow. A cave have more space to duck and behind to reload. Okay. How to play videos are the ones that help the most. How to combat, how to use spells. I see. So so you've been watching, is it the 5e stuff you're watching? Are you watching the Star Wars Saga stuff? Are you watching the Dungeons and Dragons 4e stuff? Are you watching the Back Me Dungeons and Dragons stuff? I'm doing Shadow Dark as it happens this week. For those of you who are into Shadow Dark, I'll be covering the rules for Shadow Dark. See how well I do. You never know. Okay, interesting. So those are the things you've been looking at. Good to know. Awareness, railways are always heavily protected according to treaties. Okay. Is that a railway tunnel? Is that what you're trying to talk about? Railway tunnel? I suppose you would consider it a cave. I always feel like it would fall under mining, but it's not really mining, is it? Armadillos burrow and come to the surface at night. Yeah, I was under the assumption they don't really use caves. Hallucinogenic spores. Okay, so you want to do mushroom caves, don't you? This is fungus and mushroom caves. I knew that was coming. I knew it was coming. You want something in detail on that. If I can write, a couple of paragraphs on giant crystal cave design, this is what you want next, right? I should have guessed. Anyway, so let me mark it down. So mushroom, fungus, and hallucinogenic fungus and hallucinogenic spore caves. I think that seems like a very sensible thing to cover, actually, now that I think about it. Mushroom, fungus, hallucinogenic spore caves. Yep. All right. I have to do a bit of research on fungus and mushrooms. I live in the land of armadillos. I believe you do, Fred. Reverse gravity cave. Make a beholder and change his center eye to reverse gravity. Yes, you suppose you could. Okay. There's two. Okay, all right. Reverse gravity caves requires survival checks to navigate. I'm thinking Inception. I see. You're thinking about the Inception movie. Okay, all right. I feel like Inception. You got to remember, Inception is. It's not real. It's in the mind. Whereas with a reverse gravity cave, we're dealing with something that's physical, not in the mind. So it would be a little bit different, wouldn't it? We can describe the colour and the glimmer coming off stalactites, stalagmites, drops of water falling into the cave floor, making beautiful splashing sounds. Oh, I see. Are you talking about cave noises? Are you wanting a table of cave noises? Is this what we're talking about? I don't know. I don't know how useful that is. Because I assume that would be a table. I've never been hugely fond of having tools for describing noise because I always feel like it's pretty self-explanatory what that is. Maybe am I wrong about that? Is having a table on that not really going to work? Now you're also mentioning color descriptions. We can describe the colors and the glimmering coming off stalactites and stalagmites. Okay, so you're talking about descriptions of maybe a cave location. How do we do that? Well, you could just sign up to Describe, I suppose, which do the free version and do that way. Well, if I'm going to give you information on a particular cave type, which we've definitely got to do at some point, right? And mushrooms might be one, plus maybe dragon caves. I would definitely try to give you some sort of description that you can use. So yeah, okay, all right. I'm thinking about that. That's in my head. I think that would be a given. I don't think that's sort of like an extra. I think you'd have to have that. You've been watching the 5e stuff, really interested in 3.5 as well. Okay, so let me tell you about 3.5 and why I haven't done. I've played a lot of 3.5, but the truth of the matter is, when I was going through Dungeons and Dragons 4e, it reminded me how crunchy that system was. 4e is very crunchy. And then I realized that 3.5 is just as crunchy, if not more crunchy, actually. There's so many mechanics, it's so complicated, and I got turned off. And then I thought, okay, well, I'll try and do Pathfinder. And then, of course, the problem was, again, Pathfinder second ed edition, not first ed edition, but second ed edition is also heavily crunchy. I will cover them, but there's only so much real estate in my brain, and I lean a lot heavier towards non-crunch systems than I do to crunch systems, which is why I would never go back to playing 3.5 or 4e or Pathfinder first ed edition. Certainly don't really want to play second ed edition, even if I do figure out how the rules work. It's really not high on my agenda. But the plan is, and I think Wisdom Check Jake will help me with this, is I will eventually wind up doing 3.5 and I will eventually wind up doing Pathfinder second ed edition. I'm just not in any hurry because I feel like, yeah, I need less going on for me. And it probably will be next year when I do 3.5. Because also Star Wars Saga is a D20 system, and I covered that, and that's a heavy crunch system as well. There was just too many crunch systems to get through, and I had played Star Wars Saga, so it wasn't like I had never. It was the first time for me, but yeah, 3.5 will come. I just can't promise you when. Okay, it's really more about what I can cope with. Cave paintings, local area maps, simple representations of familiar spell movements, which tell the puzzled casters needful pass through this area. Local area maps. Well, I think we were talking about maps before, so okay, I've got that marked down. Cave paintings, that's marked down. Roper versus armored and stone fungus snails, okay. Portal caves. A portal cave. All right, I'll mark that down. Portal cave. Is that going to be any different to any portal? Having a cave, there's a portal. I feel like the topic is really portals. Or is it just portals? Do I know enough about that though? That's the question. This is going to be a heavy research, that one. Is there enough out there? Yeah, that might be that. I certainly think it's an interesting idea, just covering portals, not portal caves, but just portals. It's just how much information do I really know about that, and how much do I have to find? How much can I actually find on it? All right, interesting. Hallucinogenic spores cause an inception type effect. Oh, I see. And the illusion of reverse gravity making. I see where you're going with this. Now I understand. Now I get it. You want me to talk about echolocation and tremor sense. Well, I suppose echolocation and tremor sense are a big factor for a cave, wouldn't they? Okay. Echolocation and tremor sense. There's enough real life animals out there that talking about those topics would actually not be that hard to do. I think I could do that. Particularly echolocation, because it's bats and there's plenty of information on echolocation and bats. So yeah, okay. Tremor sense. Tremor sense, well, that's your... There's a bunch of animals that use vibration in the earth to detect things through little hairs on their bodies. Those little hairs are stimulated by vibration and they can feel it, and so they know what's going on. So yeah, okay. Fair enough, Derry. Good ideas. That's not bad. And very doable too. Pictographs is what the cave paintings are called. Monolithic structures are almost alien. Yeah, no, there are monolithic structures that aren't apparently alien, although we don't know for sure, do we? But I agree, monolithic structures is probably a separate topic to pictograms. Let's divide that up. Let's see if I can find this. Yes, we'll go here. It's not really a painting, it's a monolithic structure. Monolithic structures. And there's a lot of information on monolithic structures. So that is a very easy topic to cover. Wall paintings and pictographs. I think that's it. Pictographs, even hieroglyphics we should have in here. Hieroglyphics. I think that's right. Not even remotely. Okay, got it. So that's 15 ideas you've presented with me, people. That's a lot of stuff. You lost your molars on 3.5, did you? Nice. Yes. So to make it clear, I think I'm much more likely at this point to be covering Shadow Dark for the next month, and then in December I will do Morkbork or Merkborky, and then going to the new year I will kind of start picking up some of the more complicated systems in the new year after I've had my holidays. That's kind of where my head is at with that. It's like, that's probably the best way for me to deal with this. But character creation is a different thing, because I've got a lot planned, and this week is still going to be Beck Me, but after that we're into character creation for Merkborky or Morkbork. So yeah. You lost your Morphle on 2.3 and 4. Okay. Fair enough. Character creation is really the hardest thing. But yeah, no worries, brother. You have already done more than enough. Well, I don't plan to stop. I'm just, the speed at which I do it is the big factor to think about. So, okay. All right. So we've got a lot of those ideas down about caves, which is good. Now, there's probably a couple of different types of dragon caves that we need to consider looking at. If we're dealing with Dungeons and Dragons, they break it up pretty easily. And I was showing you the books that you saw before, actually. Let me just grab them and just put them in front of you. So this here is the Dracon. I can't even say it. It's on metallic dragons, basically. This is a 4E book. This thing here. So this deals with everything from the biology of the creatures, how they operate, how they fight, where they live, all that sort of stuff. That's for metallic dragons. And then after the metallic dragons, there's another one. This is also a 4e book, and I'm not suggesting they're as good as the 3.5 ones. The version 3 ones are probably maybe even a little bit better. But these deal with the same sort of thing, but it's chromatic dragons. So where they live, how they interact, how they fight, what they eat, how they birth, all that sort of stuff, that's in here, and biology. So I guess the thing is deciding ultimately what sort of dragons we want to sort of push into when I start covering dragon caves. But I still feel like mushroom and fungus caves are definitely top of my priority now that you guys have suggested it. What do you got here? Does it? It shows you how you've changed character creation. Skyrim really gives us a ton of ideas. Now, I've played Skyrim, but I haven't played video games for many years, so I've stopped playing that. What sort of ideas does Skyrim actually give you? I always felt that Skyrim was simply a duplication of what had been done in the tabletop role-playing game field. Do you know what I mean? I'm just going to move myself forward a little bit. I almost feel like Skyrim is really just going over what's already been done before. Is there something they've done that's different? Going to feed some ducks with the kids later. I'll see you later, Nacho. Thank you for being here. He's probably already gone. Spell check. The red dragon created an obsidian cave complex. Yeah. Giant caves of gold protected by dragons. Well, yeah, maybe underwater sections. Absolutely. So given that we're thinking in terms of cave locations for dragons we would like to cover, I guess breaking that up into what would be the dragons that we deal with. And okay, what have I got here? So there's hordes. No. Okay, here we go. Well, an amethyst dragon would definitely have a cave. So let's just make a list of that stuff so that I know where to go with this. Amethyst dragon. They will certainly be using a cave location. Not necessarily a black dragon. No. A blue dragon. Yeah, they would use a cave. Blue. And then... I don't know about this one. Don't know about this one at all. Well, brass, I guess. The red dragon is obviously pretty obvious because it's going to be a volcanic cavern region, isn't it? That's the most likely. So red dragon. Mark down copper. Not necessarily. A dragon turtle would be an underground cavern, submerged sea cave, wouldn't it? That would be a dragon turtle. So that's that one. I don't really feel like that would be what we would know. Not that one. Really not convinced that it would be that either. Green dragons. Green dragons. No, I don't think so. They're more forest and water rather than a cave, so I don't think that works. The red dragon for sure. It would just be volcanic. I guess the question is, do I just cover dragons in general, or do I go into a specific one? It might be more interesting to go into a specific type of dragon. The red dragon probably being the easiest way to go, right? That would probably be the one to go for. No, I don't think a silver dragon. Not really. Not that one. Ice dragons and white dragons. Now, AJ had mentioned that. He said the thing about them is ice caves are a big factor for them. So the white dragon, ice dragon, yes. And I think that would be enough to sort of consider right now. I think that's... So I'll make a little bit of a list there of things to sort of target. I think the red and the white are probably going to be more interesting. I like the idea of the dragon turtle cave. Yeah, crystal dragons, I get it. But yeah, I feel like crystal dragons don't necessarily need to be in a cave, but we just talked about crystal caves being underground, so I suppose that's true. They would be a cave as well. So the crystal. I don't know about gold and silver. I don't feel like they live in caves as such. But crystal. Let's mark crystal down as well, because we were just talking about crystal caves today, weren't we? So, am I losing my mouse here? Am I? Maybe I've lost it. Almost. Dogs, automatic cleaners of spilled up food. Giant chambers of gold protected by dragons. Okay, all right. I feel like a green dragon's more likely... Hello, Pale Rider. I feel like a green dragon is going to be much more likely to have like a hollowed out tree or a lake, because they can breathe underwater, so they could sleep underwater as well. I feel like that would be much more likely than a cave location. I suppose it could be a submerged cave, but because they've got more of an affinity with the forest, I feel like it's going to be forest location or tree beside a water source of some kind, generally. But yeah, I mean, you do whatever the heck you want to do with it. I like the idea of a green dragon having taken up residence in an enormous hollowed out tree. I feel like that's a much better lair for them than a cave. Yeah, so I suppose you could say, yes, dragons are basically flying, scary dogs. Absolutely. Let's just say that. Okay, so I've got lots and lots of ideas that you guys have given me for things that I need to cover in the future. So dragon caves and a whole lot of different types. Cave maps. We might do some mapping of caves in the future for sure. I just don't want to make a habit of, like, I don't feel like it's a tool that's going to be hugely useful to you, because it's just an irregular shape, right? But we haven't done a lot of mapping, so yeah, I get it. Different types of caves, absolutely. The Roper Cave, the Hag Cave, Hooked Horror Cave complexes, because they don't really have one cave. Crossbows for caves. Terrain creation in a cave, maybe a table. A reverse gravity cave. Yeah, okay. Wall paintings, hieroglyphics, and pictograms. Monolithic structures in caves. Mushroom, fungus, and hallucinogenic spores in caves. Cave noises, maybe a table. Portal caves, or just portals. Maybe we just do one on portals and be done with it. I think that would be smarter. Echolocation and tremor sense. So we've got pretty much more than enough for me it'll keep me busy for a good year with ideas. So today was collecting up some ideas. Let's have a look and see what our poll tells us. And we'll end there. So have you included crystal caves in your adventures? Just watching, 38%. Oh, okay. Yes, 23%. So very few people really out of 13 votes. Incomplete, 23%. Yep. And then no, 15%. Okay. All right. So maybe the idea behind this is that maybe I need to do a crystal cave location at some point. All right, Fred, I'm thinking about that a lot. If I make maps on this channel, how useful are they to you? This is my biggest concern. I think that is a question for the community tab. I'll put that question as a poll in the community tab to see if me making maps on this channel that you can use is really something you want. But then again, even if I did it would be dungeon scroll. So how useful? You could just go to somewhere like Dyson Logo and grab whatever you want. So yeah, okay. Some questions to ask. I'll certainly consider it and think about it. Okay, all right, I'm going to finish there today. My hay fever's been pretty bad. I was struggling as I was getting through this, so I'm going to head off. So I want to say a huge thank you to all of my patrons who help support me so I can keep running this program. I really do appreciate it. It makes it really good when I can actually keep going and going into depth on a topic rather than just doing generic, the same old game master or dungeon master stuff, same old stuff that everybody else is doing. If I can really dig into the crux of something, it's nice if I can do that, and the patrons really make that possible. Thank you for everybody who took part in the poll today. I do appreciate it. Thank you for everybody who's been in the live stream. So Fred Huber, Pale Rider, we had Awareness here, we had Derry who was adding his 2 cents, Nacho Man. Did I miss anybody? I don't know. I could well have missed somebody in the chat. Oh, Jay McCoy. Jay McCoy. I didn't even mention your name. Did I just skip right past it? I probably did. Sorry about that. Dungeons and Chronics, Born, who was here for a little while. Look, thank you very much for showing up and commenting in the chat. It really did help providing those ideas, and I do appreciate it. Yeah, if I've missed your name, I'm sorry. So wherever you are in the world, whether it be the morning, the afternoon, the night, the wee early morning, please look after yourself, your family, and your friends. Be nice to your neighbours. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s.